just cannot stop paying attention. You do not have that luxury. You can't, if your calf is itching and you need to lean down and scratch your calf, in that very moment you could hit a bump that, you just can't do that. Yeah.
That detaches your retina.
Exactly.
And so one of the interesting things that was a challenge for me was hitting all the VCPs, and I'm watching two,
So
satellite
VCP is a virtual checkpoint that you see on your GPS. Yeah.
Right. So even if we had some fast sections where, Lance and I are coming in and we're in the 65, 70 mile an hour range on something that's fairly flat, and you'd think you could relax then, but you can't because, you're worried about, spectators and cows and Bigfoot and whatever else is going to be out there.
It's the chupacabra.
Right.
Do you know about the chupacabra? It's
I'll
okay if you don't. It's okay.
I'll need to go back to counseling if we talk about it anymore. So, anyways, you're coming up on a fence line and you've got to hit the checkpoint, the virtual checkpoint, and it's like, all right, which side of the fence line do we turn on? Are we inside the fence or are we outside the fence? Because if you make that wrong, you got to loop back and get on the other side of the fence. And so you don't have time to relax even at that point, because you're racing through everything. It's not circle track, that's 2-dimensional racing, right? You hit the corner again, you hit the corner again. You can do it better, lap after lap after lap. Okay. We don't see the same foot of race course ever. You never see the same foot.
Well, actually,
it's always different.
You did.
Well,
because you're going back the other direction. Yeah.
Which is, isn't exactly the same.
Yeah. Right.
Because stuff feels differently going back. Right.
Okay. So, understood. And it doesn't take a genius to at least think they understand what we mean when we say that the Baja 1000 is brutal. And I would agree with you that you really cannot put it into perspective until you go experience it. And it's everything. It's the physical side. It's the mental side. It's the psychological side. It's the spiritual side. It's the social side. You make friends. You make very good friends when you're – and it doesn't just have to be the Baja 1000. It's any kind of a scenario where you're being put to the test and you have a common goal. I mean, that's why soldiers have such good bonds, And so,
the fraternity is a thing.
Yeah, definitely. And now you've gotten to experience that, and you were brought into a group of guys that, several of those guys have been doing this year in and year out with each other. So you got brought into that aspect of it. What was that like?
I've known a lot of these guys from other events, and so like Mike Jr. Johnson, he's a great racer. This is his third win, I think, third. Brian Finch, it's his seventh, all on the BC1 team. And I've met these guys outside of Baja, so the friendships were already there, but the bonding wasn't. And, I'm being in construction, I'm the guy that's, I'm always kind of the clown. I'm gonna talk trash and kind of break you down that way. I'm not intimidated by anybody on this planet because, I can just kind of joke my way through just about anything. But when you get into that, and Mike Jr. Johnson is such a character, he's one of the funniest people I've ever been around. But when that guy gets behind the wheel, he's a different person. And I saw a level of intensity that I'd never been exposed to because I hadn't been with him in a racing atmosphere. And he really just gets this laser focus, and it shows because that cat made up 31 miles on his leg. And you don't do that by not, giving 190%.
So, Travis, I'm going to interrupt you here, and I'm going to kind of redirect some of our conversation because it just dawned on me. I'm listening to you, and there's so much passion and emotion connected to what, and I get it. That's the part that probably a lot of people that are listening won't understand is that I lived this for. I mean, I'm still living it. I'm not doing it as a profession anymore, but the fact that you have 1.5 million people that are interested in your life. How has you, and these are like you've said, grassroots, just fanatical people about Jeeps. How are they responding to what you just got to experience? I mean, it's a week roughly since you raced the Baja 1000. How's your audience responding?
You know what? So much of it is they're still in disbelief that I was actually there. Sure. It's just because it was never something. And I talked about it before, but they're thinking, oh, he's probably just going down and going to do a few parties and stuff. But until I actually released the video of me and Lance crossing the finish line, that's when people are like, wow, he really did do that. And the response that I'm getting is pretty amazing because I'm just an average guy and I was given this opportunity and so much of it is I hope that it gives them I guess a sense of hope that you can kind of do whatever you want to do. Your life can be whatever you want it to be. You just got to work. That's the only thing that's going to get you is work.
Well, it sounds like, yes, work, but there's another part that you're missing right now or you're not saying because I know you get it. And that's lay
it on me. What is
you
it?
Give. You serve your audience without it's not you don't expect to get anything back. It's not like you've monetized them. And I'm basing this off of what you've said. It's not like you're monetizing this whole thing to get rich off of. You even chose to go back to work as a construction worker because it is who you are. So it's real. They're not and I think that's what's so special about it for you and why it works. And again, why I think it's so cool that BF Goodrich chose to include you in this because you're just, like you said, you're the average ordinary guy that is authentically engaged and you give. And when people give, it's a reciprocal thing that happens. You receive, especially when you give for the right reasons. And it sounds like you do, man. So kudos to you. And I'm glad you got to experience all of that. Let's kind of redirect here and talk about what's on the horizon for JeepFreeks.
No, I'm just going to keep doing what I do.
If I'm catching you off guard, I apologize.
No, I'm just going to keep wheeling and going to Jeep Safari and I want to keep. I'm on the BF Goodrich Performance team as a brand ambassador, so we've got that coming up, and we always do something cool. And honestly, I'm going back to the Baja 1000 next year. However I got to get there, I'm going, and I'm going to be in better shape this next time, and I'm going to drive.
Right on.
That's they started it, and so I'm going to keep going. And I look at it like I'm 46 years old, and I'm going to start a racing career.
Right on. Good for you, man. Good for you. I like hearing that kind of stuff, and what I think is interesting is that we live in a time we live in a point in time when this kind of stuff is possible, and I think it's pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can have whatever you want in your life. You can do anything you want because it's probably mostly been done by somebody else, and you can learn from their mistakes or their experiences. And all the information is at your phone, and the biggest thing, the only thing that's going to get you there is hard work. There's no other way to get it.
Hey, speaking of which, I met your son.
Right.
What was his name again? I'm sorry.
Spencer.
Spencer, yeah. And he's got a pretty good career going right now, doesn't he?
Oh, he landed the greatest job you could ever have. He works as the marketing manager for Robinson Armament here in Utah. And so all he gets to do is shoot guns and take pictures of guns and take videos of guns and talk about guns all day, every day.
Right on, right on. Well, it sounds like your work ethic has spread to your kids, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
Travis, let's wind this thing down here, and I'd love to get a couple of thoughts from you about what are some of the things that stood out the most from your second trip to Baja. I'd like to think that there's people that listen to this podcast that have spent a lot of time down there, and I'd also like to think that the podcast eventually ends up being listened to by people that have never been, that are curious. So what would you share with those that are curious or haven't been yet? What stood out to you?
The first thing I'm going to share, and it was a comment made to me by one of my friends, one of my very good friends, Alex Lair, and he said, when your ego wants to surrender, but your soul won't quit. And that's what Baja does to you. It consumes your ego, and you're living and running on your soul. And that's where that type of racing and that type of commitment is won and lost, is in your soul, because it doesn't matter how big your ego is, Baja will consume it. and then you're running on, your soul. And Baja has its own soul. And it's an ugly, ugly, unpredictable thing, and it'll smile on you, and then it'll smack you down 1 mile later.
And just to clarify, Travis means the race, not the peninsula and the culture and the people.
Right.
Within the context of the race, it will smack you down. Yes. Even the most seasoned, well-prepared veteran gets the beat down. And there's no way around it.
But speaking just for the peninsula, it is one of the most beautiful, amazing places I've ever been in my life. And it's probably will be the only place I vacation from now on, because I've gotten to know the area quite well. And it's such a frontier that, you want to just go exploring, and you can.
Yeah, and I'll say this to you, as a guy who wants to go and explore down there, please reach out to me. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Just like I'm sure there's a right way and the wrong way to do the Rubicon and Moab and so on.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't encourage you and anybody listening that, Baja is amazing, and there's so much to go and see. But there is a right way and a wrong way to do it, and I would ask listeners and you, Travis, make sure you dig into the resources that are available before you go, because doing it the wrong way is bad for everybody.
Oh, absolutely. No, I should have led with that.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just finishing off the last drink of a cold beverage here. That happens to be named Pacifico. I should try to chase them down for a show sponsorship. I like that beer. Well, Travis, listen, man, I ask everybody that comes on the show, and you may not necessarily be able to give me a name, and you may not even be able to tell me exactly where, but I like to ask everybody what their favorite taco place is on the Baja Peninsula. And those that forget the name or don't know where, you can even just describe why the taco is so good. But you can't talk about Baja and ignore the whole concept of the taco. And I've got this idea to start a restaurant someday. The restaurant will be called Everything is Better in a Tortilla. So who knows if it'll actually end up happening, but where did you get to experience an amazing taco? And if you can share or remember the name, go ahead and do that as well.
Poblanos.
Ah, all right then. I know exactly where you're talking about.
It's a BF Goodrich staple when you're down there racing. I think we ate there maybe 10 times. because it's good, it's fast, it was an